Our topic is the Mitteler Rebbe. Today is the birthday and the yahrzeit Histalkus Elul of the Mitteler Rebbe. Today's his birthday and his yahrzeit. Tonight and tomorrow is his Chag HaGeula. As I told you last week on Thursday when I did this, the Mitteler Rebbe passed away on his 54th birthday. And there were a lot of reasons that caused him to pass away. One of them was the Gezerah of the Cantonisten. The Mitteler Rebbe saw the decree of the Cantonists. I talked about this last week. And the Mitteler Rebbe said, Ich ken das nicht, I can't handle this. And he left it for his son-in-law, the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek. And the other thing was, when Alt Mitteler was arrested and liberated, he was never free. They were breathing down his neck. They were breathing down. They never bugged off. The government, did I tell you the story what happened? Yeah. They threw him out of the court. They threw the opposition, they threw him out of the court like it was a non-case. But then quietly they started to do research. They were meddling with Mitteler Rebbe didn't like it. Which is why Yud Kislev never became a Yom Tiv, because it wasn't over till after he passed away. Till after his Histalkus. Then all of a sudden they became nice. Okay, he's a nice guy. There's nobody to pressure. So the end story was that he went to his father's oil to complain about what was going on, and he came out and he said that Tata abgezok for the Rabbonos. My father freed me from the Rabbonos. He started traveling back to Lubavitch. He got sick. He got stuck in a place called Nezhin, and he passed away. He passed away. There's some very powerful. So yesterday I told that story why he passed away. Amongst the little things that I shared with the girls yesterday was he was in a coma. Mitteler was in a coma. Mamish in a coma. And the doctors had told him that he's not allowed to speak Chassidus because he had problems with his lungs. One doctor goes over to another doctor, I want to show you a miracle. I want to show you a miracle. And he goes over to the Mitteler Rebbe. Yeah, he goes over to the Mitteler Rebbe, and he whispers in his ear that the doctors decided that he could say Chassidus. Yes? The doctors decided that he could say Chassidus. So he popped up, boom, he's back. And he asked for his Big Day Shabbos, and he put on Big Day Shabbos and started saying Chassidus for a few days. It was like, wow. That's what this Mitteler Rebbe, his whole life was Amiras Chassidus. His whole life was saying Chassidus. So the night that he passed away, he said Chassidus 3 times. And it even says what my Rebbe said. He said twice Chassidus in the Pasuk, Achei Temimim telechu. And the third time he said Chassidus in the Pasuk, I think it was Zecher Rav Tuvcha. One of the things that happened that night was he went into a trance. The Mitteler went into a trance, Tadvekas. And he was not responsive. The Chassidim became very afraid and they started screaming that the Rebbe shouldn't do this because Chassidim can't watch this. He was frightening them. And finally the Mitteler Rebbe sat up and they asked the Mitteler Rebbe if he heard what they said. He said, yeah, I heard. What is such a holy neshama doing in such a lowly world? He was someplace else. I heard, what is such a lofty neshama doing in such a lowly world? So he said Chassidus, and at some point during the night, the Mitteler Rebbe said the same thing that the B'Shimba Yechoy said, that I'm going to reveal things I never revealed before. I don't know if you know, the B'Shimba Yechoy passed away the same way the Mitteler Rebbe did. He called together the Chevre, he said Pnimis HaTorah, he said Kabbalah, he said Chassidus, and in the middle of saying Chassidus, he said the word Chaim and he passed away. The same exact thing happened by the Mitteler Rebbe. But the B'Shimba Yechoy said on the night that he passed away, I'm going to reveal secrets that I never revealed before, and he actually revealed them. The Mitteler Rebbe said, I'm going to reveal secrets that I never revealed before, but he didn't reveal them. Why? And the way I'm picturing it was, there was a shul, the Mitteler Rebbe was sitting in shul, and he probably spoke very softly, he was ill. So the Chassidim were like piling all over him, and the Mitteler Rebbe was sitting, and he's preparing to say Chassidus, and in the middle of his preparations, a man was standing above him, like climbing atop him. And that's how I'm envisioning it. His hat fell. And it distracted the Mitteler Rebbe from his focus. And the Mitteler Rebbe said, this is a sign min hashamayim that I shouldn't reveal these secrets. And he started saying something else. And the Mitteler Rebbe said, I'm going to reveal secrets like I never revealed before, which was the same thing that B'Shimba Yechoy had said the night that he passed away. Unlike Beimir, but Lepeil, the Mitteler Rebbe did not reveal those secrets. He said Chassidus, and he's middle of saying a Maimir. He said the pasuk Imcha B'Ker Chaim, B'Chaya Chaim, and he stopped speaking. He passed away from saying Teda. Like, the Sham went up Lamaila, like a kiss, from Lakus.
I thought you can't pass away if you're saying words. Yeah.
I'm going to give you an answer on one condition. Now you don't ask any questions on my answer. There's 2 ways to die. You listening?
Yeah.
One is the machine breaks down. And another sends a light from heaven and it sucks your neshama out from the top. We have two different words for that. When the machine breaks down, we call that misa, death, or ptira, departure. When Hashem sends then a light that sucks the neshama out, we call that nishikin, a kiss, like Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, like Aaron HaKohen passed away, like Miriam passed away. And that's a whole different kind of story. That faked happens dafka when you say Teda. David HaMelech was protected from his goof breaking down because it was a midas HaTeda. But when a person passes away because Hashem gives you a kiss, you're not dying, you're going up to a higher level. And that's what happened to Rashbi, and that's what happened to the Mitteler Rebbe. And the Mitteler Rebbe said to be happy. So they went to his levaya singing and crying. The Rebbe Gehasen Freilachai, the Mitteler Rebbe. Now what I want to do with you, what I planned to do with you, was I want to talk to you about several of the Mitteler Rebbe's Chassidim, okay? Because I don't know if you understand. Whatever I teach you, I use again, I post it on my website. So I did the whole biography of the Mitteler Rebbe. You're the last class. Actually, I'm going to the other room. I'm going to do it again, although I'm going to do it with them. But I want to talk to you about a number of Chassidim of the Mitteler Rebbe, okay? That's my topic. We're talking about the Mitteler Rebbe's life, talking about his Chassidim. The most famous of the Mitteler Rebbe's Chassidim, whose name you for sure heard, is Reb Hillel Paritcher. Anybody hear of Hillel Paritcher? Yeah, Reb Hillel. Hillel Paritcher was a very, very big chassid. He was a very, very big chassid. And he was one of the first chassidim who was actually a chassid, the son of a chassid. In those times, most people who were chassidim, their parents were, for lack of words, misnagdim. They were not chassidim. It's not everybody was a misnagdim, but they were not chassidim because chassidus is brand new. The Alter Rebbe's chassidim were not chassidim, the children of chassidim. They were children, the chassidim, children of people who were against chassidus, and they had to have mesiras nefesh to come to the Alter Rebbe. But Rabbi Hillel's father was also a big chassid. His name was Reb Levi. The only thing was, he was not a Chabad chassid. He was a Chernobyl chassid of Reb Nachum Chernobyl. You've heard of Chernobyl Rebbe, right? Reb Nachum Chernobyl. His yahrzeit exactly 1 month ago. Tes Chesher is his yahrzeit, I think. And his Reb Hillel Paritcher's father, Reb Levi, was a chassid of Nachum Chernobyl. Reb Nachum Chernobyl. So Reb Hillel was in that time the unusual chassid ben chassid, the chassid son of a chassid. What's his story? He was a holy baby. He was a holy baby. As a baby, he was holy. His Rebbe, Reb Nachum Chernobyl, was very old, and Reb Hillel Paritcher was only 2. When Reb Nachum Chernobyl passed away, Reb Hillel Paritcher was 2 or 3 years old, very, very little. And Reb Nachum Chernobyl was traveling. As a very old Rebbe, he traveled, and he came through the town where Reb Hillel's family lived. And it says the name of the town, but I don't remember it. So his father, Reb Levi, took his little baby son to see the Heilige Rebbe, Reb Nachum of Chernobyl. If you don't remember, Reb Nachum of Chernobyl, he's the guy who was fat from Aman Yehesh Me'Rabba. You understand? I'm fat from Beidi Minim Zaynis. He was fat from Aman Yehesh Me'Rabba. Just had the cutest story. I woke up this morning, the first thing I saw on my WhatsApp was, today's my son's birthday. So he's married with children. So his wife said to the kids, okay, we have to give Tati a bracha. So his 3-year-old boy says, Baruch Atah Hashem, L'keinu melech ha'olam, Beinu Minim Zaynis. That's the bracha he gave his father. But it really happened. This actually happened. It's so cute. If you know my grandson, it fits for him. But anyway, Reb Nachum Chernobyl was fat from Aman Yehesh Me'Rabba, not from eating cake. He was a very old man. And the shtibel was small and very crowded, pushy. So the Meir Levi took his little boy and he put him up on the window. In other words, the windows were above the height of the people. It was a high window. So nobody could push him and he could see Reb Nachum. He was a 3-year-old. His father pushes him up on the window ledge, and he sees the old tzaddik Reb Nachum Chernobyl, and he starts to scream in the dialect that they spoke, in Ukrainian, fire. A 3-year-old saw a tzaddik, he saw fire. So Rabbi Hillel sort of was born holy. He was not an ordinary person. Imagine a 3-year-old kid sees a tzaddik and he doesn't see a person, he sees fire. It tells you who Rabbi Hillel was from childhood. Mikadosh me'rechem u'meleida. Anyway, he was a very good Chernobyl chassid, but Reb Nachum Chernobyl passed away when he was 3. So he was not a chassid of Reb Nachum Chernobyl, he was a chassid of the son of Nachum Chernobyl, whose name was Reb Mordechai Chernobyl, Reb Mitteler Chernobyl, who was called the Chernobyl Maggid. He was a big tzaddik, he really was a big tzaddik, But not like his father, he was very against the Alter Rebbe. His father, Reb Machon, was a good friend of the Alter Rebbe's. Reb Mitteler Rebbe was one of those Chassidim who believed in Chagas, not in Chabad. He disagreed with the Alter Rebbe's derech. And Reb Hillel was raised with Mitteler Rebbe, who was a big tzaddik and a big Eved Elokim, the whole 9 yards. He was a really holy Jew. Today, there's a lot of Chernobyl Chassidus. Chernobyl Chassidus is one of the most well-established Chassidus even today. Skver, you heard Skver Chassidim? They're Chernobyl. Racham Strifk is Chernobyl. A lot of Chassidus in today are Chernobyl. Chernobyl is very well, it's established. There's a lot of different branches of Chernobyl by different names. A lot of them don't even know. In any case, at some point, Reb Hillel was a brilliant kid. He was not normally smart. They called him the Chayil HaMayid. You know why they called him the Chayil HaMayid? Because he got married before his bar mitzvah. So he wore his talis before he wore tefillin. Because on Chayil HaMayid you don't wear tefillin. So you got married at the age of 12 or 11. You got married very, very young. When you get married, the Gemara says that in those times, for kids like him, it was normal. He was a brilliant kid. He wasn't a normal child. He was also very holy. There's a Gemara that the Gemara says that one of the Ameroyim said, either Rav Ami or Rav Asi, I got married at 16, he said. If I had married at 14, I could look the Yetzer Hara in the face and laugh in his face. When you get married so young, you don't have a chance to have a Yetzer Hara. Reb Hillel was a tzaddik. He was a big Baal Madreg. Got married very, very young. And at some point, he came across a copy of the Tanya. He didn't live in Russia. He lived in the Ukraine. He lived in the Polish region, Chernobyl. He came across the Tanya. And he learned the Tanya and he fell in love with it. In those days, there was not a lot of printed Chassidish Sfarim. The time was most Rebbes didn't print their Chassidus. And the Tanya was one of the first, it wasn't the first, one of the first Chassidish Sfarim printed. Reb Hillel learned it and he said, this book's true. And he found out that the Mechaber of this Sefer is still alive. Alter Rebbe was still alive. So without hesitating, he ran to look for the Alter Rebbe. His mazel was that the Alter Rebbe was in the Ukraine punkt. Alter Rebbe was not in Russia, he was visiting the Ukraine. Why he was visiting is interesting. The Alter Rebbe made several visits to the Ukraine. But one of the reasons that he visited Ukraine, this is a very interesting story, girls. I don't know if he was there twice in the Ukraine at the end of his life. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev passed away in the year Tovkuf Ayin, 1810. Right after Simchas Chassidus, Yotas Achei Tishrei. The Alter Rebbe was very good friends with Barditchev. So Alter Rebbe traveled from Liadi to Barditchev. It was a long trip to be Menachem Avol. And the Rebbetzin, the Barditchev's wife, was very, very upset, very broken. And she said to the Alter Rebbe, "Wer wird machen mir the Seder? My husband passed away. Who's going to make me the Seder this year?" And the Alter Rebbe said, "I will." And the Alter Rebbe stayed in Ukraine from the Shiva, which was in Tishrei, the whole winter. Pesach, Tovkuf Ein, he was in Barditchev, and he made the Seder for the Amona of the Barditchev Rav. This is one of the reasons Alter Rebbe was in Ukraine for an extended period of time. There was another reason that do with Gezeres. And Reb Hillel ran after the Alter Rebbe to track him down. He heard that the Alter Rebbe was still alive, and that he was in the Ukraine. He ran after him. So he came to the city where the Alter Rebbe was, and they told him that he left yesterday. So he asked, he was all of 15, you understand? He asked, where did he go next, and what city he went to next? So he ran after the Alter Rebbe. You have to understand, he wasn't taking a train, he was walking. He was walking. That's how they lived. He walked to the town where the Alter Rebbe was, and they told him, you missed him, he just left a few hours ago, yesterday. Did he say where he's going? He said, yeah, he's going. Anyway, this happened over and over again. Wherever he went, Alter Rebbe just left. And Reb Hillel realized that he's being prevented min hashamayim from meeting the Alter Rebbe. This is not a mistake that he's not seeing the Alter Rebbe. So he said to me, Oy b'chochma, be smarter than God. He asked people where the Alter Rebbe went, but he also asked where he's planning to go after that, 2 cities away. And they told him. So instead of walking to the city where the Alter Rebbe was, he walked to a city where the Alter Rebbe was going to be. And when he got there, the Alter Rebbe had not yet arrived. So he came to town. It was a Chassidish shtat, and obviously somebody was preparing to host. So one of the people in town had been asked to be the Alter Rebbe's host, and the house was set up for the Alter Rebbe, including the room that the Alter Rebbe would work in for the time that he was in the town. Huh? Hide under the table. Okay, it's the same story. So he went into the room that the Alter Rebbe was going to be in, and he waited. The door opens, the Alter Rebbe walks in. Now I have to give you a Hagdama. The Alter Rebbe had a rule. Anytime a Chassid met him the first time, and Chassidim met the Alter Rebbe because they wanted to learn how to serve Hashem, they wanted to learn Darki Avoida, how to serve Hashem, how to daven basically, the Alter Rebbe would say, no, in the first Yechidus, I'm not going to teach you how to daven. In the first Yechidus, I have to answer your questions. He used to say in Yiddish, Was is dir Shvebit? What questions do you have in Nigle? Because the Chassidim with Alter Rebbe were big Talmidei Chacham, big Goyim. Reb Hillel Paritcher knew this. Reb Hillel Paritcher knew that the first Yechidus is Nigle, so he prepared himself. Reb Hillel Paritcher was a Goan. The Rebbe writes that Bar Mitzvah was a Baki B'Shas, which was normal, in quotes. But he also knew by heart all the writings on Israel. He was a big brain at 13. So we had Kashis and a Masechta called Eidechin, which is a Pasha in Pashas B'Chokai about a person giving tzedakah against his own worth, but the financial worth. But what's unique about Erchen is Hashem tells you how much you're worth based on your age, not based on your earning, based on your age. So Reb Hillel Paritcher had learned the whole Shas, obviously, but in Masechta Eidechin he had a few hard questions that he couldn't find answers for, and he prepared to ask the Alter Rebbe these questions because he knew that he meets the Alter Rebbe is not going to talk to him Darki Avoida, the Alter Rebbe is going to answer his questions in Nigla. Alter Rebbe opens the door to the room, he's hiding under the table, and the Alter Rebbe broke his own rule. Reb Hillel Paritcher was planning to come out and introduce himself and say, I want to speak about Avoida. And the Alter Rebbe would say, no, the first Yechidus is Nigle, was is dir Shver. Before Reb Hillel can come out from the hiding place, he hears the Alter Rebbe's voice. And the Alter Rebbe used to speak everything with a tune, with a nign. And the Alter Rebbe said, a younger man was had shailes in Mesechtes Eidechin, darf sich frier allein meidig sein. A young man who has questions in the tractate Eidechin should first be meidig, that means evaluate himself, he judge himself. The Alter Rebbe broke his own policy. His policy was that the first Yechidus was Nigle, and now he gave him Avoida. Reb Hillel on the spot fainted. Boom, boom, boom. He heard the Alter Rebbe's voice. He never saw him. By the time he came back, the Alter Rebbe was gone. He never saw the Alter Rebbe. Because Reb Hillel Paritcher was meant to be a chassid of the Mitteler Rebbe. And now, this is me speaking now. This is my explanation for the Alter Rebbe broke the rule for him. Because he wasn't Alter Rebbe's generation. Had he been a chassid of the Alter Rebbe would have said, as he said to all of his chassidim at the first time, the first Yechidus is Nigla, Vasa dir Shved, what questions do you have? But Reb Hillel came to the Alter Rebbe, but he was really meant to be with the Mitteler Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe, anyway, Reb Hillel went home. Then there was the war with Napoleon, which was a terrible war. People don't understand, between the Alter Rebbe and the Mitteler Rebbe, there was a Guvaldik Yidus Aderes. The war with Napoleon was terrible. The physical life and therefore the spiritual life of Yidden by the Mitteler Rebbe was 10 levels lower than the Alter Rebbe. They were poor and they were suffering and they were broken. It was a whole different world. And the Mitteler Rebbe came back from Liadi to live in Lubavitch, which is right next door to Liozne. Someone this morning sent me a map of how close Lubavitch and Liozne are. The map you can walk from Lubavitch to Liozne. It's a very short walk. It's a tiny distance. And he settled in Lubavitch. Reb Hillel decided he wants to go to the Mitteler Rebbe. But to go to the Mitteler Rebbe, he couldn't go by himself. He had permission from his Rebbe. To go to the Alter Rebbe, he didn't need the Mitteler Rebbe's permission because the Alter Rebbe was a friend of the Mitteler Rebbe's Rebbe, his father. But the Mitteler Rebbe was a contemporary of the Mitteler Chernobyl, they would call the Chernobyl Maggid, as they called him. So before he left, he went into his Rebbe to the Mitteler Chernobyl and said, I am being drawn to Lubavitch, to Chabad. I learned the Tanya, I find that it talks to me, and I want your permission to go to Lubavitch to see if that's my derech. Not the derech of Chassidi Poilim, but derech Chassidi Chabad. Choch Mavina V'das. And his Rebbe said, do not go, you have no business over there. And he said to him in Yiddish, As du wirst fahren, wirst du liegen mit dem Puppekarov. If you dare go, you're going to lay belly up, which means you're going to die. And Reb Hillel decided to risk it. Now, you don't mess with the Mitteler Chernobyl. He was an Ishel Kim. It's a holy man. He went to Lubavitch anyway. He was sitting in a wagon, and the horses were running fast, and they went over a bump, and he was thrown from the wagon, flung, he flew many feet, boom. He landed flat on his back. He should have broken every bone in his body. And he got up, walked back into the wagon and kept going to Lubavitch. And nothing happened. A nes goloi. He comes into the Mitteler Rebbe, and by the Mitteler Rebbe it was a different seder. By the Mitteler Rebbe, the first yechidus, you had to ask a tikkun for chayin, you had to have a correction for averos that young people have. So the Mitteler Rebbe, so he came into the Mitteler Rebbe, he said, I want to speak in Yoni Avoida. And the Mitteler Rebbe told him, the seder over here is, as the erst yechidus, that vet not tikkun of chayin. For the first yechidus to speak about this aveda. Avedas. So he told the Mitteler Rebbe, I don't have any avedas. I don't have any avedas. He got married to an Avedas. So the Mitteler Rebbe told him, "What's means to Azevi Ivan? You mean I mean Avedas like a goy? I mean Avedas bedakis or bedakas edel and edeler." He came to the Mitteler Rebbe. Anyway, after the Yechidus, he told the Mitteler Rebbe, "Rebbe, I got to tell you something. My former Rebbe warned me that if I'm going to go to you," and the Mitteler Rebbe interrupts him, it says, "Bist doch gelegen mitten Puppik Aruf." He interrupted, "But you already lay belly up. I mean, you think it was a mistake that you flew out of that wagon and landed on your back and nothing happened? What your Rebbe said happened. Now, but then I put my hand underneath. He didn't say that, but it was implicit. And I made that you should fall, boom, and get up and go right there. You didn't break your bones." The Mitteler Rebbe said, "You're good." He was chassid number one of the Mitteler Rebbe, Reb Hillel Paritcher. There's a lot of nice things about Hillel Paritcher, but there's also important things about Hillel Paritcher. One of the important things about Hillel Paritcher was that Hillel Paritcher felt that having a Rebbe is not enough. Reb Hillel Paritcher said that a chassid cannot have only a Rebbe. He needs also a mashpia. But the word mashpia hadn't really been created yet. So he used to say, every chassid needs a Rebbe and a chassid. He meant a Rebbe and a mashpia. And he was sort of the prototype of that idea. Who was his chassid? A chassid of the Alter Rebbe, whose name was Reb Zalman Zezmer. Zalman Zezmer was such a great chassid that there are thoughts from Zalman Zezmer which are quoted in Maimorim. The only the Lubavitcher chassid in the entire 7 generations of Chassidus whose words are quoted in his name in a Maimir are Reb Zalman Zezmer. He was a very big man with a great mind. Reb Hillel Paritcher says, in my lifetime, and Reb Hillel Paritcher was a Jew, at 13 years old he knew the whole Shas and the whole Kisvei Arizal. He was no slouch. He was brilliant. Reb Hillel Paritcher said, "Ich hab gesehen," he writes in the first Ha'ara in Kuntas HaYispoilus, his beautiful Kuntas HaYispoilus, "Ich hab gesehen, Anira isi vildi b'alei moichen," I saw people with crazy brains, k'moy Reb Zalman Zezmer. And Reb Hillel Paritcher, in a way, sort of set the standard for you needing asay l'charaf, having a mashpia. He himself would be the mashpia to many Chassidim. A lot of the greater Chassidim for the next generation were his Talmidim. The Tzemach Tzedek used to send his younger light to Reb Hillel. Reb Hillel Paritcher was a Rav in a big city. First in Babroisk and then in Paritcher, he was a big Rav. And the Tzemach Tzedek used to send people to him. All the young Chassidim who would later become the famous Chassidim would go to Paritcher and they would sit by Reb Hillel, and Reb Hillel would teach them how to be a chassid. He would act as the mashpia who would help them appreciate the words that they received from the Rebbe. Right? This is what he himself did. That a chassid needs a Rebbe mit a chassid. It's not enough to have a Rebbe, you have to have also a chassid. Rabbi Hillel himself practiced this. Rabbi Hillel Paritcher practiced this. Rabbi Hillel was the chassid of the Mitteler Rebbe. The Mitteler Rebbe's chassid, the Mitteler was the Rebbe for 15 years, which is a very short time. Very short time. Tzemach Tzedek was the Rebbe for close to 40 years. Think about the difference. The Mitteler Rebbe was the Rebbe for 15 years. It was a blink. But it was a whirlwind. The Mitteler Rebbe's generation was so intense. Because the Mitteler Rebbe used to say Chassidus for hours straight. The Mitteler Rebbe would speak and speak. And the miracle of the Mitteler Rebbe was that he had people who could listen that long. He raised up his Chassidim. Reb Hillel Paritcher was chassid number one of the Mitteler Rebbe. And the Mitteler Rebbe didn't just teach him Chassidus, the Mitteler Rebbe taught him how to daven. Chassidus Chabad is avodas hatfila. The Mitteler Rebbe taught Reb Hillel Paritcher to connect to the Eibush, that he was a die-hard chassid of the Mitteler Rebbe. I read someplace that when a chassid has a Rebbe and his Rebbe passes away, even if he has another Rebbe after that, he stops growing. Reb Hillel Paritcher would have been even greater had the Mitteler Rebbe lived longer. Because although he was a very big chassid of the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, his first loyalty, the Rebbe who taught him how to serve Hashem initially, was the Mitteler Rebbe, and the Mitteler Rebbe passed away. By the Tzemach Tzedek, he was the greatest chassidim, but it wasn't the same thing. The Mitteler Rebbe said that he has expectations from his chassidim. He wants to teach his chassidim. And we're talking about the Hillel Paritcher because of the Talmud of the Mitteler Rebbe, the Chas Mitteler Rebbe's. The Mitteler Rebbe said there are only 2 Chassidim that I got everything that I wanted from them. Only 2 Chassidim that I got from them everything I could expect. Reb Hillel Paritcher, and another Chassid named is Reb Mitteler Rebbe, which I'm going to talk about next. Another Chassid, it was a different conversation, very different kind of personality. Reb Mitteler, Nun Tes Ein, it's like 7 syllables. Too many syllables for me. Reb Hillel Paritcher was unbelievably great. The story was that he was very frum. Reb Hillel Paritcher was crazy. I got 5 more minutes. Meshuggah frum. And the Chassidim used to say that he's far from, that he's carried, he's OCD, There's a line between frum and Meshuggah, OCD. So someone said to the Mitteler Rebbe, someone who by the Alter Rebbe says, your Chassidim, they're a bunch of phonies. They're not like by the Chassidim by your father. He said, for example, this young guy. And he pointed at the Hillel Paritcher. And the Mitteler Rebbe said, oh, no, not this one. I maybe I agree with you, but this one? Hitake is a young Chassid, he was not by my father. This is the real thing. Reb Hillel Paritcher's frumkeit was not normal. It says in the Siches about Reb Hillel Paritcher that a Chassid, a tzaddik b'maiseh, had not been in the world in the times of Hillel Paritcher for 300 years. A tzaddik in the area of exactness and doing mitzvahs had not been on this earth for 300 years before Hillel Paritcher. You know who lived in those 300 years? The Beis Yosef, and the Ramo, and the Arizal, and the Alter Rebbe, and the Baal Shem Tov. And Chassidim say that Reb Hillel, in the area of frumkeit and precision in doing mitzvahs, there had not been a tzaddik in the world like Reb Hillel for 300 years. I mean, the stories about Reb Hillel are not normal. Machon. Reb Hillel Paritcher, it says in Sefer Chassidim that you're not supposed to ride in a wagon across a bridge, you're supposed to get out of the wagon and walk. And Reb Hillel Paritcher instructed his wagon drivers that they come to a bridge, they have to wake him up. Anyway, Reb Hillel Paritcher worked very, very hard one day. It was late at night, he was very tired, he fell asleep in the wagon. And they decided not to wake him up. And the wagon driver decided he's going to go over the bridge while Reb Hillel sleeps. The minute they got to the bridge, boom, he woke up. If he decided that he's not riding across the bridge, he's walking, he woke up by himself. Reb Hillel Paritcher, when he would go to the mikveh, would keep his yarmulke on, his yarmulke would float around on the surface, and his yarmulke once floated away, Pashat almost died. Because he would not poke his head out of the water unless the yarmulke was there. That's what Reb Hillel Paritcher was. One time there was no moon for Kiddush Levana. But we didn't do Kiddush Levana Matzah Shabbos because it was only Vov. Today's already Tuesday. In the wintertime Kiddush Levana is tricky. Oh my God. The girls don't do this, but the boys got to do Kiddush Levana, this is the day. There was no moon, it was the 15th night, and there was no moon. Reb Hillel was in the Lubavitch, so he sent a pidyon nefesh to the Tzemach Tzedek, saying that we need a moon. And the Tzemach Tzedek answered, there'll be a moon. The Revival was a Fabrengen. Like 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody runs in and says, oh, there's a moon. It's a little cloudy, but it's a moon. Api halacha, even if the moon is cloudy, you can make the brach. Reb Hillel walked out, and he saw the moon was hazy. He said, no, the Rebbe said there's going to be a moon, it's going to be a clear moon. He went back inside the Fabrengen. Right before the sun came up, the clouds parted, a gorgeous moon. Reb Hillel's Mekadosh Levana. Rabbi Hillel said later, when I was younger, there was once no moon. I was not able to Mekadosh Levana. He says, now I'm old. If the moon wouldn't come out, I don't know if I would survive. Meaning he would have so much pain, so much agmas nefesh, from the fact that he couldn't do this mitzvah, which is only a derabanan. It would literally have killed him. It would have killed him. Reb Hillel. That was the kind of frumkeit that Reb Hillel had. He was an incredibly frum person. Okay, I'll continue this with the seminary based girls. If anybody wants the whole